In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." Those are really interesting words because when he says, "Blessed are those who mourn," what he's saying is they'll be happy. How can mourning lead to happiness? Well, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Mourning is grief expressed. And when we express our grief, it then opens us up for the opportunity to be comforted. Now, the greatest comforter of all is God himself. And God is close to the brokenhearted. This is a promise that he makes. Now, the reason that we all grieve is because of loss. And grief can come from the loss of all kinds of things. Typically, when we think of grief, we think of the loss of a loved one, the death or the passing away of someone that we were close to. But that's not the only kind of loss that we grieve. We grieve the loss of a job, the loss of income, the loss of a prized possession, the loss of a beloved family pet, the loss of a friendship, the loss of integrity, the loss of innocence. There's so many losses that we experience in this world. And if we fail to express our grief, then our grief remains inside of us, kind of bottled up. The truth of the matter is we need a comforter, one who will come alongside of us and help us with that grief, to carry the grief. I know all of us have probably at one time or the other tried to express our grief, tried to mourn, and it didn't go well. Maybe you shared your grief with somebody who didn't know exactly what to say, and they produced some kind of sentiment that went something like this: "Yeah, you should probably just get over it." Oh, it's like the worst thing you can say to somebody who is mourning and expressing their grief. Get over it. Because you don't want to get over it. When you've experienced this loss, you don't want to get over it because then it's like losing it all over again. You see, part of the grief process is remembering and cherishing and honoring. And the thought of getting over it would just kind of be mind-blowingly impossible because I don't want to get over it. What I might want to do, though, is get on with it. Not get on without it, but actually get on with it. Get on with living, but with the grief, with the loss. And so as I express that grief, as I mourn, as I actively engage in that, then to have a comforter, one who will come alongside of me and help me to get on with it. And that's what God does. He's the best at it because he understands better than anyone. And he doesn't leave us alone in our grief, but he invites us to express it in mourning. He doesn't shut it down. He's not afraid of it. It doesn't alarm him. He's patient with us. And he comes alongside and he lifts us up, grief and all. And he helps us to get on with it and on with him. And so here's the cool thing. If you are a follower of Jesus, then that means you act like Jesus. You talk like Jesus. You think like Jesus. You would do what Jesus would do. And what Jesus does is he comforts those who are mourning. And so when somebody comes to you and expresses a loss, is expressing their grief in mourning, please don't you dare say, "Get over it." Maybe you could just say, "Hey, can I help you get on with it?" Allow them to express their mourning and their grief and what they've lost, and then help walk with them. And what you'll discover is you'll both be a lot closer to God, and he will be present. And there will be a happiness that really just can't be explained, because blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted.